Welcome back. All right, so I want to talk about the Ottawa Senators today. The Sens are a team that are expected to get better. They did get better this past season. The problem is they were also expected to probably be a wild card team. They didn't get there, but they finished 6 points out of the playoffs. They got close. The problem was their start to the season wasn't great. And so when you have a bad November, you spend the rest of the year trying to dig your way out. So the important thing for Ottawa this year is to get off to a good start. If through their first 10 games they're 6-3-1, something like that. Through their first 20 games they're 12-7-1, or something in that range where they're projecting really well, then we can start talking about them as potentially being a playoff team. But if they start 7-12-1, then they're putting themselves up against it again. Now the exits from this team are interesting. First off, you've got Brassard, who hasn't signed anywhere, but of course he got hurt towards the end of the year, and I was concerned at the time that might be the end of his career, and I had some real concern. I'm hoping it's not, and he signed somewhere. Austin Watson, so that's some sandpaper in the bottom six that's been lost. Talbot, it was clear Talbot was not sticking around. We knew this once the season was done, and it was clear that they weren't going to re-sign him. He was going to go somewhere else. We will talk about his replacement because it is worthy of talking about, right? And Holden, a depth forward or depth defenseman. He's off the team, it would appear. Gambrell, and I'm saying it would appear because I don't think Holden signed anywhere. Gambrell, of course, he's gone. He did re-sign elsewhere. Patrick Brown gone, re-signed elsewhere. He was only a rental at the deadline anyways. So they used 7 goalies in 2022-2023. That is a key thing first off. Health, injuries. Whichever team makes the playoffs out of Detroit, Buffalo, and Ottawa might be the one that avoids major injuries, might be the one that avoids going through some of the issues that they did over this past year. And yeah, with Ottawa, the amount of goaltenders they went through was alarming, right? So on the left-hand side, and again, this is not worried about who's on which line or anything like that. When I get into season previews, it'll be a lot more in-depth. But Tkachuk, 23 years of age. Brady Tkachuk's coming into his own. I don't know if he ever scores as many as Matthew Tkachuk, but I do think a 90-point season could be there. I think 95 points, sure. 100 points, well, you're getting to 95, you might as well go to 100. DeBrincat's there in blue. So DeBrincat's the big question mark, right? And now there's talk about, well, maybe they just bring him back for one last year. Maybe they just give him that qualifying offer and he sticks around for one more year. That is a possibility. I don't think that happens, but it is a possibility. So what's interesting, too, is when you look at that top six, projected top six anyways, you have Tkachuk 23, DeBrincat's 25. Stützle would be your number one center, in all likelihood, 21 years of age. He could be a 100-point producer as well. Josh Norris, potential 40-goal scorer, 24 years of age. If he can come back and play the way we know we've seen that he can, that could be huge for them. On the right-hand side, there's Giroux. Giroux defied the aging process this past year, looked the best he has in a long time. Can he have another year like that? We shall see. And then Batherson. Batherson had an up and down season. 25 years of age. If he falters, I could see Ridley Gregg stealing a top 6 spot because Gregg, very hardworking, and has honestly looked pretty good at the NHL level so far. They've got Matthew Joseph there, depth on the left-hand side. Pinto down the middle as well. But what DeBrincat shows in that highlighted spot there is that if they're going to trade DeBrincat, they don't have a lot of depth on that left side. So you can move somebody from the right over to the left. You can move a center to the left-hand side. But in all likelihood, they're probably going to want a left wing back in whatever trade they make, plus something else, right? So they're going to want to improve their team with the trade of DeBrincat. Parker Kelly, I like his work ethic. I don't know how many points are there, but I like his work ethic. He's 24. He's on that fourth line in all likelihood. Kastelik's 24 years of age, so if he ends up being the fourth line center, I think that's okay too. And Sokolov may end up getting that spot on the right-hand side. He's 23 years of age, but there's some depth here. So on the left, they've added, Imama's been added. Smeykal is there as a depth forward, and Järventie is there as well. So I don't know necessarily that a rookie ends up jumping in to, say, a DeBrincat spot if he doesn't end up playing. So if he decides to, for whatever reason, as an RFA, well, I'm not signing here, and if the Sens can't work out some kind of a trade, maybe a guy like Järventie jumps in. Maybe we see one of the other rookies end up jumping into a spot. Now, down the middle, they have Chartier, they have Pilon, who they signed. He's 25 years of age. I'm thinking Pilon ends up in the AHL, and that's where he's been signed for. He's coming off of a Calder Cup win with Hershey. Josh Curry, Ostapchuk is there as well. I don't see anybody here that jumps out at me as this guy could replace DeBrincat in the event of something happening. On the right-hand side, you've got Highmore, Tyler Boucher, and you've got Oscar Pettersson there as well. So again, is there depth up front? Sure. Could they use some more depth? Yes. I think they could definitely go and make some more additions during this summer. I don't think they're done is what I'm saying. But I think that the DeBrincat situation is probably front of mind. And they'll want to get that cleared up before they make any other moves. I would think, unless they're not able to get anything done, right? On the blue line, it's not a bad defense at all, really. So you've got Chabot and Chychrun on the first pairing. Chabot, of course, is signed forever. Chychrun's 25 years of age. Then you've got Jake Sanderson, who's 20, plays like he's 25. Like Jake Sanderson, he hit the ground running in the National Hockey League, looked like a veteran right out of the gate. I'm always impressed by defensemen that come into the league polished and look like they're ready to play. Sanderson has done that, and I think he's a huge add for them, especially since they already had Chabot. Zub, underrated defenseman, playing with him as well. You've got Brandstrom, 23 years of age, showed some progress this year. They're going to look for more progress from him this coming season. Hamonic re-signs, of course, for a couple years. Hamonic really solidifies that defense. Now, Tyler Clevin is turning some heads at the rookie tournament, or he was at the development camp. We got the rookie tournaments coming up later in the summer. But yeah, Clevin might be one to watch. If he pushes out Brandstrom, does Brandstrom then become one that they would look to trade? Probably yes, although he might end up becoming a number 7, and Bernard Docker might be the one to watch too. He's 23 years of age. And yeah, with the right amount of development, Bernard Docker could be a top 4 defenseman too. And then you've got Larson, who at this point, I think he's 26. Basically depth on the blue line for them, Jacob Larson. Hetherington, Hamara's 19. Very unlikely he would end up on their roster anytime soon. Lassie Thompson's one that's interesting because Thompson, 22 years of age, former first-round pick, I believe, as well. And so there's a lot of intrigue I have about this blue line, that there's some really good, talented defensemen. Gwinnett's there as well, 22 years of age. And so we'll see if this is the final form this defense takes or if other moves get made. Again, the one thing with that is the top 6 is pretty set. I would be very surprised to see any kind of a change made with that top 6 now that they've re-signed Hamonic. Before the re-signing of Hamonic, Bernard Docker probably would have been that third pairing defenseman, and it's a lot of young guys. One thing to keep in mind is that 3 of their top 6 would be 25 or younger. The younger players are usually going to get better speed out of them. It's going to be a lot of energy, but do they make more mistakes? In many cases, they do. I will go back to Jake Sanderson and say in general he doesn't, but that's something you have to think about when you're putting this team together. Now, in net is where things get really interesting for me with Ottawa, because the Korpisalo contract is pretty widely panned. Korpisalo signed for a 4-year contract, and it just feels like it's a lot, because Korpisalo had a .914 save percentage, played 39 games between Columbus and LA. Those 39 games, that's a career high. He's never played more than that. Because he's either been, backing up Merzlikins, he's also had injury problems at times. And so that has to be a concern. And then his battery mate would be Forsberg, who's supposed to be 100% healthy for training camp. He had a .902 save percentage, played 28 games. I didn't think Forsberg had as strong of a year this year as the year before. Injury may very well have played a role in that too. For Forsberg in 2021-2022, he had his career high of 46 games. So there's got to be at least some concern that Ottawa does not have a goaltender who's played more than 46 games in a season. So in the event that, let's say, Korpisalo gets hurt or Forsberg gets hurt and one goalie has to be the guy for a while, can they get it done? And so it will be interesting to see what happens, because there are some talented young goaltenders waiting for their turn, including Mads Sogard, who had an .889 save percentage this past season. Marilainen had an .878 save percentage, and Mandolisi, a .916 save percentage, 22 years of age, might be the next guy up. So one of these 3 goalies, very likely to be the backup, I would think, as soon as next year. And so it's a matter of these 3 fighting it out. So maybe when you get an injury to one of the top 2 goalies, whoever gets called up feels that pressure, like, I have to go out and show that I'm the next guy. And that kind of energy can be important as well. It is going to be an interesting team to watch in Ottawa this year. I think it's a talented team. I think they're a team that should be able to score a lot of goals. Can they keep the puck out of their net is going to be the question mark. What kind of a start does Korpisalo get off to? Does he steal them some games? Do the Ottawa Senators end up with a really strong record by the end of November? Because if they do, the storyline will then become, all right, so they look like a playoff team. But if they do have that slow start again, I would think that could cost DJ Smith his job. I would think that if they miss the playoffs again, Pierre Dorion would have to be concerned about his as well. Because again, it's that whole argument of, okay, so you do the teardown, which Ottawa did, right? Now you've built things back up and you're trying to put yourself in a playoff spot. It is hard to get above the playoff line and into a playoff spot in today's National Hockey League. So can the Ottawa Senators do it? That's my question for you. Are the Sens going to be a playoff team in 2024? Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. For all your support, I will talk to you again soon.